just loading up. There we go. So we are live, and let's see who we have, if anybody. But we will see. We'll see what's going on. There's loads of, well, I don't know where our last. I beg your pardon, mate.
I thought you were about to say there's loads of news on today.
Well, there's loads of things that happened overnight, which is quite interesting. So we will we'll have a look at that in a little while.
Yeah, the markets have maintained the volatility, that's for sure.
They have, haven't they? Yeah, they have maintained volatility, and it's just not volatile in the direction that I really wanted. But you know,
it's kind of still holding and going nowhere, though, isn't it?
That's exactly the thing. Yeah, that's exactly the point. Is that yeah, it is volatile, but doesn't seem to have kind of given us any real direction. It's just as you say, it's just kind of holding out right now.
Yeah, it seems to be in wait mode, the whole market.
Yes, it is, and I suppose it's going to be worth kind of having a look at that. And this is the point about the FTSE, and this is the point about the trade, the trade wars and everything else. Is just trying to ascertain what's the real driver, and this is why I got out the trade in the end. I actually got a slightly better price than the pivot, which was satisfying, but I held right the way through to the low of this bar. I think I got out at 38. There's 34, so I got about there. So as this bar came down, I was just looking at a few kind of short-term prices, and the short-term prices were suggesting that it would probably bounce in this area here. So I managed to get out just below the weekly pivot, and I ended up with 0.75% as a profit. And considering that was held for a week, I was pretty disappointed with that. But that's it's better than and it's better than a loss, which it would have turned into if I'd held on to it.
Much better than a loss.
Yeah, and it was pretty good, because the thing was, and this is, for me, this is why I like to switch time frames quite a lot, because each time frame tells you something slightly different, and it might even suggest that you're trading on a slightly different time frame. So right now, I'm really on the 4-hour, and it seems that this particular market is trading on a 4-hour time frame rather than an hourly or a daily. Because when I looked at the 4-hour, what we were looking at yesterday was this in the morning, and because that hadn't broken through, there was the suggestion that we cut back a bit. But you see this bar here, is that big enough? Let me make this clean. This bar here, is that big enough to see?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So this bar here, that was the one that even though I'd got out a little bit before the close of the bar, but it was only just before the close, because we were coming into the next 4-hour period, and I thought if this doesn't break to the downside significantly, which it didn't, it just kind of like cut into the bar but without any real significance, then there was a likelihood that we were headed for a hold, and that's really what subsequently happened. So now I'm looking at this and just waiting for this this particular period here, which is going to be in an hour and a half, to close, because if I get something that looks like a holding bar, then I'll be happy to trade this again to the downside before I see anything else. Because really, what needs to be waited for is that little level to break down. But I'd like to see that 4-hour bar, see how it ends, and then see if we get the break to the downside. And as you say, it's going to be what's the driver? That's what I've got to figure out. What's the driver? So let's have a quick look at some news. Have you got anything pending?
No, mate. No.
Okay. All right. And we'll talk about Bitcoin today, because I think that's all of a sudden it's got interesting. It's just started to get interesting. Yeah, this could be. We could be getting drivers today. There seems to be quite a lot out there. So, German flash manufacturing and services PMI. These could be really fascinating numbers because with the global economy slowing down, this has really been one of the drivers with the FTSE. And the German market is something that's been cited as a bit of a barometer. Obviously, it's a huge barometer for the rest of Europe, but it's actually a bit of a barometer for the globe because of the exports that they provide to places like China. So that is quite a key. You know, this stuff's quite key here. I noticed that Chinese data is a bit light when we kind of look at Forex Factory, and I don't know why, but so 8:30 we could see some movement. So waiting until 9 o'clock, I think, is going to be fairly prudent here, even though the sell is quite tempting already, and the issue that I've got is that my belief about the sell was to do with American and Chinese trade wars. And the more I read on the American and Chinese trade war negotiations, the more it seems that people are quite buoyant about it. So I can't use that as a driver anymore, which is why, you know, as this bar came down, it was kind of prudent to try and close that particular trade off, and obviously it proved to be the right decision yesterday. They don't always work out like that, but it proved to be the right decision yesterday. But I've still got a bearish kind of like opinion, I suppose, in my gut, but it doesn't really kind of filter through into my brain at the minute. So until I get something which I can tangibly hang on to, then I can't really justify selling this market, because what I suspect is going to happen, even though this is evidently an area of resistance, and I'm starting to see some technical reasons for resistance up here. I don't really want to be caught in this for another week. You know, as you say, volatility's back, but we are caught in a bit of a range, and that's really what this is starting to create as we kind of like push between this level and I guess this level here is sort of, you know, it did dip a little bit lower, so let's put it there. But looks like we're just kind of caught in this little range here. I was looking for this to turn into some sort of head and shoulders pattern. That hasn't happened. So going on, what happened? What my gut is telling me is not going to be enough. There's not enough meat on the bone. So I've got two options. I either get in here and hope it comes down, but knowing that I've got a decent price up here, or well, I've got three options actually. Or I search around to see if there is anything out there, and I don't want to have to search too hard. I want it to be pretty obvious. German manufacturing PMI and services PMI could be enough to suggest that that we could be getting a move back to the downside if those numbers are pretty dismal. And that really brings me on to technical option two, and the technical option two is to wait for a break of this particular area here. Which would probably, by the time it happens, also break the daily pivot, and a break and a back test of that would get me in, and that would give me just slightly better than my original price. And considering I've taken a bit of profit on the original price, that will end up being still a really you know, a decent month's work if that does start to break down from there. So yeah, as I say, I either get in here and be happy that I've got the high or a high anyway. And the reason I don't mind that is that oftentimes, and it's not always the case, and this is the issue that's really beset me at this point here, is that oftentimes it will retest an area. So if it does get through here, the chances of it retesting are fairly high. However, we haven't tested this point as yet. We haven't tested this trend line as yet. So if it does start to go through, you know, these lines are going to start to look like distant memories, and the same thing possibly could happen again, where, you know, the market is so buoyant and confident that it doesn't bother retesting this for quite some time. It's likely to test this line at some point, but it won't necessarily test this for a little while. So I do need to see a breakdown here, and then I think I've got this this area here in my sights. or possibly if it's not going to come down quite that far, then certainly this area here in my sight. So I'm really looking at you know, a couple of areas to test. This one is starting to look, I guess, a little bit more likely because it would also probably coincide with this this low here. So I still think that there is a chance of an 150 pip move to the downside in the FTSE, but it's what's the driver. That's the key here. What's the driver?
Can you bring a resistance trend line in from the third high?
Sorry, from where, mate?
The third highest high.
The third highest high. Oh, you mean the here?
Yep.
Okie dokie. Starting from that point.
Yeah. And going through the second last high.
This one here.
Yeah. It hits that spot too, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, yes, yeah, and it has. It almost came down to that point. It seems that the horizontal level seems to be the actual line here, and I guess the horizontal level is so key because it, you know, it's over here as well. So so it is a significant level that it needs to break down here, and I guess if it does, then I think we do get that that low that I need. But yeah, it probably is going to be worth waiting and just seeing if I can get it. It's difficult, you know. The signals are out there. There are some signs and signals out there, but as I say, I wouldn't mind waiting for that 9 o'clock period because at least then I'll have the German data behind me, and it might well just give us some. You know, this is happening.
For at least the session anyway.
Exactly. You know, this is happening in another hour. Nothing else today. We have,
apart from the Aussie news earlier, which was
yeah. What was that?
That was
and Draghi's out tomorrow. So you see, tomorrow may be the real, genuine volatile driver. So yeah, sorry. Talk to me about the Australian news. Wow, yeah, employment change was a huge beat.
Yeah, and so the market reacted to that, but it didn't last long. What it put on 45 pips in a heartbeat, and in the very next heartbeat, it took off 100 odd. So
let's have a look.
That was on the back of apparently some China restrictions, if not bans, on importing coal from Australia into, I think it's something like 8 ports in China. No reason given.
Where'd you get that from?
That's I think that news is on Reuters, or I think it might even be on Forex Factory News.
Really?
So that's a massive blow, if that's accurate.
Cannot give any details on trade talks with. Okay. Has no information on any with the US.
Go to the headline ones on the right-hand side.
This does say about it here. Yeah, so China cannot give any details on trade talks with the US to the end. Has no information on no information about any China ban on coal imports.
Yes, that might be false.
Interesting. Glencore, we're talking about cutting coal production. So I don't know whether that would have some kind of play on the Australian market. I guess it would.
Go back to the main page, the news page, and see on the right-hand side there the headline acts. That one, yeah.
I get this again. Yeah, I see what you mean from Reuters. Caps 2019 overall core.
That is Reuters, not a fake Reuters, isn't it?
Yeah, cousins of China's North Dalian Port has banned imports of Australian coal and will cap overall coal imports for 2019 through its harbour at 12 million tonnes. An official at Dalian Port Group told Reuters on Thursday the indefinite ban on imports from top supplier Australia, effectively since the start of February, comes as major ports elsewhere in China prolong clearing times for Australian coal to at least 40 days. Oh, okay. 5 harbours over. So did this send the Aussie dollar to the downside?
Oh shit! Yeah.
The indefinite ban on imports from top supplier.
It took off 100 pips in an hour.
Coal is Australia's biggest export earner, and the Australian dollar tumbled on the news, falling more than 1% to a low. 5 harbours overseen by Dalian Customs will now allow Australian coal to clear through customs, said the official.
Will not allow.
Not allow, sorry. Coal imports from Russia and Indonesia will not be affected. So why have they done that? The ports handed out 14 million tonnes of coal last year, half of which was from Australia. The Dalian official declined to be named due to the sensitive matter. Neither Dalian Customs nor responded to a comment.
I think politics are involved.
Yeah, it says here it comes amid simmering tensions between Beijing and Canberra over issues such as cybersecurity. I tell you what, this cybersecurity issue for China is really quite a significant problem, because the UK were talking about China yesterday to do with cybersecurity,
okay.
and what they were talking about was Australia recently revoked the visa of a prominent Chinese businessman, further straining ties. What they were talking about was the fact that China were owning a lot of the businesses in the UK could be a risk to security, because Chinese businesses owning businesses in the UK could be a risk to security, because they don't know at some point whether they will default back to the Chinese state. So owning some of these tech companies could be problematic. And it's really, it's the unknown for the Western economies, if we kind of really think about this, because the Western economies aren't used to a huge economy, potentially the biggest economy within the next 10 years being anything but a democracy. So this is why it becomes an issue. I don't think they'd be so worried if it was the American government necessarily owning these intellectual properties, but certainly if the Chinese own it, then it would be problematic. I mean, of course, it wouldn't be the case that the American government would, because it is a democracy. But with Chinese politics not being the same as ours in the UK, it's kind of put some pressure on all this stuff.
Well, we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? Really, how China are doing a Japan. Really, they're smarting their way into world dominance, rather than fighting their way into world dominance. And this is just, I guess, another page in that diary, or in that textbook, or whatever you want to call it. But it's not a good look for Australia when they start knocking back coal. That's for sure.
I see where this sounds like it could affect. There is a company which you're probably aware of called Glencore, and Glencore are already talking about potentially cutting some of these some of this oil production. Let me just see if I can find them. Obviously, the market is closed right now, but this is going to be a fascinating day for Glencore. It's already dipped to the downside. There is an inverted head and shoulders here, so there was a little bit of a potential pickup here. But this is I think it's going to be a really interesting day for this particular stock. Everybody's going to want to sell this when it opens. I would have thought. I'm pretty sure Glencore are pretty active in Australia. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but I'm fairly certain about that.
But I don't know much about it. No. So, how big a player are they in the FTSE 100?
They would play a part. I mean, you know, if we think about the how the FTSE 100 is distributed up, mining stocks do hold a fairly big percentage. So given that, I would have thought that it won't just be Glencore. You know, you'd think that there could well be you know, some others that would be affected. Let me just have a look at what we got here. So I'd want to look at this the mining sector generally, that has had a pretty good run to the upside. Another decent day yesterday, but this will I think this will be a really interesting market to watch. It is already in overbought territory anyway, so it may be due a correction, but the correction could be fairly deep. I have to say, you telling me what you just told me may well be enough for me to say I've got a driver.
Mm-hmm.
Because that could be pretty serious. That could be pretty serious for the market. Not only because of the fact that China have cut coal, but the fact that they've made such a huge play in response to something that is affecting more than just Australia. You know, as I say, I think the UK market is at this point in time pretty affected. They are sort of like getting affected by what's going on in China and their intellectual property. You know, most specifically with Huawei. You know, the whole argument with Huawei is about this 5G network. So I'm going to look for an entry, mate. I mean, you know, I won't take it as this is coming down, but if I can get some sort of bounce here, then I might well take it before this trend line. I quite like that. I'm going to look for other drivers, but I quite like that. That could be really significant.
Okay, well, you've got 7 minutes to think about that before the open. I'll take a little cruise around some currencies, shall I, and see if we can find something to entice us into the market as well.
Yeah. Ben as well is saying that BHP stocks will plummet, and I agree. I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? We've got Glencore, BHP. The mining sector generally could be seriously affected by this. So let's come back to it and have a look. I'll still employ some patience, but my fingers are getting pretty itchy.
Ah, dear. That's good. I like it.
It's good in a way, as long as I don't get so itchy that I take something bad. You have the screen, right,
mate. As long as you've got a reason, mate, that's all that counts. Well, couple's good. 3 or 4 is better. We'll see. All right. I'm going to start. Well, I'm going to rule the Aussies out completely. Anything that's got an Aussie in it, be it primary or secondary, I don't want to know about it, because this is very, very much if the news is right and as concerning as it may seem, then really this should tumble. But if it's not accurate, then probably we're going to see that initial rally continue. Well, not so much continue, but at least get back there, I would have thought. So I'm ruling the Aussies out. That's Aussie yen, by the way. That's the Aussie chart. That's where the news happened on the employment figures, and it didn't take very long for that coal news to hit, and the market went whooshta. So Aussies are out. We're still in euro pound. Euro pound, absolutely nothing to do here. And if you're still in this with me, just hang tight. We're free trading. We can't lose. I've still got my stop loss where I had it in the first place. I just want to give this as much room as I possibly can. And if there is a big move, then I'm hoping that our stops are in the right place and we can continue to take advantage of what we do perceive to be an opportunity here. If this level can go, then there's plenty on offer on euro pound to the short side. So that's pretty much why I'm holding as I am. Also took a trade this morning, which is not going real good. That is pound yen. This is kind of the other side of the coin. I saw this as maybe, and I'm only in this in a very, very small way, I've got to say. I saw this as a potential clean out of positions here. And that's why I was kind of willing to take a big risk. I'm really trying to find the top here, which is never a great idea, I've got to say. And I don't do it often, but on this occasion, I thought we were maybe close enough to the top of that channel to see at least a bounce here. And of course, I said at the time, this may well be very wrong, and we could find ourselves up here at some stage. And that's why I've gone in here with a very, very, very low stake. If you wanted to follow it, the stop loss is at where? 145. Oh, can't remember what exactly it was. Should show me. Maybe 07. Sounds about right. 145.07, and the entry was at 144.07. That sounds about right. Actually, no, that doesn't sound right. Entry was at 144.10, and the stop loss was at 145.07. That's right. Okay. Rightio, so not going so well on that. That's around about midstream. It's not going to kill me if it gets knocked over, and I probably will look for a second opportunity to get short here. We will see. I'm not committed to it. It's just a little perhaps one of those just in cases that I take every now and then and put a very, very small amount on the table. So if there is a clean out here, this should rocket down here at some stage today. If not, then so be it. We traded EuroCAD as we just about closed the show yesterday. We traded short under this candle here, and our first take profit was pretty much on that white line. I'm out of this trade. It's slightly better than break even because I took 55% off the table at TP1 and moved my stops to a break-even position. So I'm just I'm out of the trade, and it's really doing nothing. It's pretty much at entry now, or close there too. If you followed that, not sure what you did. If you are still in, then I've got no help. I can't help you there. It's pretty much a toss of a coin from here, I would have thought, and I have no bias at all. If I go out to the 4-hour chart, it's exactly the same. It's just a break and retest here that never went through. We've gone straight into consolidation. The market seems to be waiting on something, as I said before, but that is no longer a concern to me on EuroCAD. Still waiting for dollar yen, and maybe this was the bar here, but it's something I don't trade. I don't like to trade indecisive bars, especially low test, high test bars put together. They don't do anything for me. Is this the lower high is the question, and are we headed south? Again, we've gone into consolidation, and really when I see that, it becomes a toss of a coin for me, and I don't really want to play the toss of a coin game. So what am I waiting for? I guess I'm waiting for either a clean out or maybe this level to break. Maybe that's what I'm waiting for. I think I need to see a breakout in either way before I look to trade it. That's the 4-hour chart. Maybe we get up to here and look for short. I don't know. I really void of ideas on that one. That's dollar yen. I'm giving the Aussies a miss, as I said. Cable. Yeah, look, I think I could probably get interested here as well if I could see something. But being in pound yen is probably going to be the same trade anyway. But if I saw a lower high here, especially if we didn't get clear of the daily pivot, I may get interested in this one short as well. Why am I short the pound? Ash, why would I be thinking that? Well, the reason is this. And I was very tempted to play this candle as well. I played it on pound yen as we saw. But at the end of the day, this may well be a lower high off the top of this range that we've been in. We considered this to be a higher low, and surely that got the money. But this may well be exactly the same in the opposite direction, being a lower high. So very tempted to take that. This morning I was, but I decided on pound yen. That may have been a poor decision, but they're in exactly the same position, to be fair, out of the money at the moment. But some opportunity to play that. We'll see how it pans out. If we're wrong here, then that's going to be good for the euro pound trade, of course. But I'll still be looking for something here if we don't go through this level, and maybe tomorrow or something, I'll be looking for a lower high if we do go to the top here. We shall see. Again, not a very, very clear picture. The euro, speaking of not very clear pictures, is most definitely sitting in a fairly tight range, and it's bounded in here somewhere. If this was FOMC statements day instead of FOMC minutes, I'd be pretty excited, because this would give us an opportunity to trade a breakout, and the breakout will come on the back of probably news. So I would love to be in that position to be able to trade the breakout if it was FOMC statement. Maybe FOMC minutes may do the same thing, but I just don't think that's probably going to be the case. After all, we've had plenty of Fed members speaking prior to these minutes, and one would have thought they'd have been questioned at length on what the minutes probably contain. So I don't think we're going to see too much news out of the FOMC minutes, and therefore I don't know that we're going to see a breakout. Potential is there, of course, and anything can happen. Do I have a preference here? Oh, yes, I do, because of the euro pound trade that I'm in. But do I see this on the chart? No, I really don't see anything on the chart except a hold here after a big rally. I don't think I've got anything here that suggests that this is going long or short. So really, let's wait for the breakout, I suppose. And that's probably going to go into next week. Euro yen, kind of double toppy. I'd like to see a bit of a rally here, just nice and easy, nice and slow, and then give me a lower high. That would see me bearish, but where we are is pretty much in no man's land for me, and I won't be trading that anytime soon. That's pretty much all I've got, considering that I'm not trading any Aussie pairs. So that's pretty much my little round the ground strip. We've got an open market now, mates, on the London scene. What's going on with you? Have you found anything yet?
Well, we've had some earnings from Barclays, which is probably going to buoy the FTSE 100 right now. We don't really have too much in the way of movement. The initial shift back to the downside, I think, just expresses that we do have this resistance point up here. I'm just having a look to see how this first 5 minutes is going to shut down, and just as we come into the last few seconds here, I don't see a lot, but it actually looks a bit bearish to me. Yeah, it's kind of indecisive. It's kind of indecisive. The first 5 minutes just have really given us no clear direction. We get this bar here, which does express that. So moves to the upside will probably be pushed right the way back down again. But I guess it's starting to suggest that this point will be more of a bounce than a breakthrough. So don't really have a clear picture. We're gonna have to give this a little bit more time to unfold. Maybe it's going to be about that European data rather than what we've just heard from Australia. Going to need to look into that a little bit further, because I suppose maybe all we've really got right now is that one headline, but no real corroboration. So maybe we need to see some corroboration on that, especially because we had no information about any China coal ban. So yeah, maybe the story needs to unfold a bit. It seems that that there is some tension out there from the first report we read, but maybe we need somebody in the government actually backing up some of the reasoning there, just to see if how tense that whole scenario and situation is.
Maybe I could go downstairs and watch the television, because it'd be all over the Australian news. You would have thought,
yeah,
the news bulletins, if it's real.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not being expressed right now. I mean, we're not seeing any huge moves in the FTSE 100 so far. As I say, Barclays was out with some fairly decent earnings, and the banking sector is also a big player in the FTSE 100. So it doesn't seem to me that that we're in any particular rush here. I'm still keen to look for some downside, but I'm going to let that news pass. So we've got a good 25 minutes really before anything needs to be done. Now overnight we've got 3 more MPs leaving a party, and this time it was from the Conservative Party. Not sure whether we covered that yesterday. So we've had 7 defectors from Labour, followed by an extra 1, so that made the group 8. Now we've had 3 from the Tories. Now these are fairly big players, and they are players that are after Anglo cuts debt as profits beat. So yeah, so the profits are coming in. This is the thing. Sorry, just to get slightly distracted today,
Right,
just for right now. But this is the thing today, is that we've got some earnings that have been coming out, and the earnings seem to be pretty good. So it really is going to depend on what's going to be the driver today, whether it's going to be about the macro story of the potential weakness in German data, or maybe this Australian coal story, or whether it's going to be the earnings. And so far, the suggestion, certainly from the first 5-minute bar, is that the market hasn't yet decided what is the driver. And I'm not that keen to jump in until I know what it is. So Anglo have just come out and said that they've had some pretty good earnings, and as I say, Barclays have already come out and said that they've had some decent earnings off the back of RBS only a few days ago, pretty much saying the same thing. So we've got a fairly robust banking sector, it seems, right now, and Anglo are a mining company. So yeah, just have to wait for this.
Okay, so it's wait and see time. On the same,
yeah.
no trades. Just recapping, we're still in euro pound short from, what was it, Monday? I think we got short.
Yeah, it was a really good one. Now that story, the thing with the pound might just come off a little bit. We're still back and forth with are we going to get a deal or not? Theresa May was in Brussels yesterday, or she may well still be there now, discussing the situation and scenario with Jean-Claude Juncker, to see if she can actually free up the impasse that we have in Parliament. Jeremy Corbyn is to give his vision of a no deal of a no deal Brexit to the European Union as well, saying that there's no appetite in Parliament for a no deal Brexit. So he's throwing his hat back in the ring to try and get involved in the negotiations. But what the Labour team really seem to want is for him just to come out and back this people's vote, and he's just so reluctant to do it. He's an awful leader when it comes down to what's been going on with Brexit, because everybody's been completely in the dark about what his position is, and that position does not seem to be getting any clearer the longer this goes on. So the Brexit story, I would suspect we will probably start to get more clarity, but by the end of the month.
How long have we been saying that, Ash?
Well, I know. Do you know what? We've got 37 days. This is the crazy thing, that the numbers are really starting to tick down now. I think the thing with the UK policymakers and the government and the negotiators is that it's their belief that that the reason that the negotiations have been going the way they've been going is because everybody negotiates at the last minute. The deal that was done with Greece with the European Union was done at the last minute, and they did actually they've cited quite a few other occasions where it's a 23rd hour kind of. Not 23rd hour. The 11th hour is the term, isn't it? It's a kind of 11th hour rush to get something done, and they seem to be kind of using that particular philosophy to walk into their negotiations. But I have to say, the European Union are being incredibly cool on this whole thing, and seem to be fairly united.
They're in the box seat, aren't they?
They are, because of what Theresa May laid down. Theresa May should never have laid down the red lines that she did, and she boxed herself in. But interestingly, one of the MPs yesterday that has defected has said that in her opinion, Theresa May just does not like immigration. Because she said that she went to Theresa May and said, if you can just accept that we should be in the single market and the customs union, then this whole thing can be sorted out. You're going to get Brexit, but with single market membership comes freedom of movement. And Theresa May was the foreign secretary for many years, the longest serving foreign secretary, and she had huge problems with immigration. With the numbers, she just could not get a control of them whatsoever. So this particular MP thinks it's about that. She thinks it's about immigration. She's not saying that that Theresa May is racist, but it's almost like this has been Theresa May's what is it when you have this monkey on your back?
Yes, I know what you're trying to look for.
It's her Achilles heel.
Yeah,
it's her Achilles heel. That seems to be her Achilles heel, is immigration, and it's haunting her. That's the way that it seemed in this interview, that immigration is haunting Theresa May, because she couldn't get control of it with the Foreign Office when she was the foreign minister, and she can't get control of it now unless we leave the European Union. But as this woman quite rightly points out, who's going to do the jobs if we cut immigration in the way that they are suggesting? So the country needs it. The country needs the immigration, and it needs the immigration that we have. Certainly to keep the National Health Service going, because people just effectively can't afford to get into the health service. That they can't afford the qualification.
Oh, look, I shouldn't laugh, but there's so many aspects to this. It boggles my mind, and I guess no wonder it takes them this long to sort the bloody thing out.
Do you know, mate, I'm a bit embarrassed by the whole thing, but because not because of how bungled it is, but the thing that embarrasses me the most is the fact that we may actually be a much more far right, or certainly to the right nation than I than I appreciated, and I think that there's nothing more ugly than extremes, no matter on which side of the fence that you're on. But the far right are vicious. It's a vicious faction, and racism is just such an ugly, ignorant aspect of somebody's being that I just, as I'm embarrassed by it. It kind of embarrasses me that's what Britain may well be, because I kind of always have been brought up to think that Britain's this open, tolerant, place to live, which for some people it is. Certainly down in Brighton it is. We did vote to remain, and I think you'll get certain pockets that are. Certainly when you go to London, London was also a remain area, but when you get to other parts of the country, it's just not really like that, and it's disheartening, and not too nice to hear.
The euro has rallied on that news. Obviously, it's good. I don't know what it is. I haven't got it through yet on my screen, but euro's having a little bit of a party all by itself.
Is it possibly having a bit of a by the rumour scenario here?
No, this is French Flash Services PMI.
Oh, okay. Well, that was about 45 minutes ago, wasn't it? So let's have a look at that. What was that?
No, that's now.
Oh, let me just check that. Okay, sorry. Calendar. French. Let me just see. Up next.
I still haven't got a number, but it's driven the euro straight to a resistance level.
Seems the FOMC minutes yesterday were a decent driver for. Oh, do you know what? This is loading very worryingly. If this crashes for any reason, I'll be right back.
Oh, they've already happened. The FOMC minutes. I thought that was overnight tonight.
Yes, it was. Yeah. So I was just saying that that has put some pressure on the pound and the euro.
Okay.
Okay, where are we at? Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, French PMI came in at. It's still under 50%, but yeah, it was a beat, and manufacturing PMI was a beat as well. So a couple of good data points there from France. Now we're just waiting for Germany, which is much more significant. Could that be a little precursor? But I think if we get decent numbers out of Germany, then I think that the euro probably has a decent day today.
Oh, look, anything can happen from a technical point of view. So maybe it is a fundamentally driven day, that's for sure. We're definitely in a hold for some reason and waiting for something to happen. I thought it was FOMC minutes, but yeah, that's already happened. Then what is it? Maybe it's these numbers coming out in the first hour or so of the market being open, because there's nothing really else that that's going to drive the market today. One wouldn't have thought. What do we got tomorrow? Oh, they're all speaking tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Maybe they're waiting for Draghi to speak. Who knows?
Yeah, they probably are. Now, I just want to have a quick check. We were talking about this this coal story earlier on. Ben was saying about Rio Tinto as well. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Ben. That is some of the reason that people voted for Brexit, because people were worried about losing their jobs to foreigners. And the problem with that is that was what has been drilled into them from certain factions in the political forum, because if people, certainly Nigel Farage, that was one of his big plays, is that the Polish builders come along and they undercut the British builders, and they will do the jobs for much cheaper. And companies will accept that. But that the fix for that is not to bash the immigrants, because it's not their problem, for one. It's not their fault for the other. And why shouldn't they come over and get a better life for themselves by undercutting and taking the money back, if that's what the playing field suggests? If the playing field says you can charge what you want for this work, then that's I think that's fair game. So what the politicians should be doing, rather than telling people this is what's going on and we should stop them coming in, just have a minimum wage. So it's fair across the board, because what happens is the British builders will go in and say this is the price, and people will balk at that price and then go and get a Polish builder. But if they have some sort of regulations where they have to, the price is at a certain level, then the British builders will accept to do the job. So there's other fixes for that. So you're right. People did have that problem, but that fear has been manifest and made by politicians on the right side of of the political spectrum. Now, what was I going to look at here? Right, I'm still waiting for an update. Right, let's have a look. Problem we've got now is that all those people that voted for Brexit are actually finding out that they are in no better position. In actual fact, they're in a worse position. We've just had Swindon. We've had a something like 2,000 jobs being lost into 2020 because Honda are no longer making cars in the UK, and they didn't cite Brexit, to be fair, but certainly there are people out there that suggest that that will be one of the factors of them having to close the plant. We've had Nissan saying that they won't be making a model of their car. I can't remember what it's called, but that's in Sunderland, and they have cited Brexit on that. Jaguar Land Rover the same. So a lot of these people that are in these leave areas may well have just signed their own careers off to other countries anyway. So business can't survive over here. If business can't survive over here, it doesn't matter how much immigration you have, or how little, I should say, immigration you have. Right. So the mining stocks have opened actually okay. So I'm not sure what's going on with this. With this report, we're going to have to find out, mate.
Who knows?
No, this is what we've got. So as the market is now open, these are on a 15-minute delay. So let's just have a look at this on 15 minutes. I mean, there is a gap. So yeah, there is an effect here. There is a gap to the downside. So let's see if this picks up some legs. Still quite early in the picture here. But let's see if this picks up some legs to the downside. Yeah, it's continuing down. So
all the Aussie news casters have picked up the Reuters. It's the only source I'm seeing is the Reuters.
Rio Tinto. Let me just change this. Rio Tinto seen a gap to the downside, but it's not that significant. Who else are we citing? See, Glencore are a huge coal producer, so they're probably going to be the greatest effective. Oh, and BHP Billiton was the other one, wasn't it? Yeah, they've got a gap down as well. Yeah, it does seem to be affecting the mining stocks here. Let's just see if they've actually reported on it here. Nothing there. See if Glencore's got anything. No, they haven't updated this news feed as yet. So maybe this will come into later today or maybe tomorrow. We'll start to see that. When we bring this back to the FTSE, there's not enough momentum to take the FTSE down at this particular stage, and the FTSE it's early to say just yet, but I'm interested to see what happens with this particular bar. Let's just have a look at this on some 5-minute bars here. Moves to the downside, and this indecision bar has resulted in a little bit more selling and easing into this area, but we've just had a hold, and now, yeah, it seems to me that there are. I mean, look, see how frozen that is. It doesn't seem that there's a whole bunch of conviction really today for one thing or another, and actually
pound and the euro are rallying fairly well, but apart from that,
the pound and the euro.
Yep.
Interesting. I wonder whether this. Yeah, you see that suggests that we've got a little bit of a hold here. So bounce point coming in with the FTSE 100, the pound and the euro up against each other. Not so much, but let's have a look against the backdrop. Yeah, I see the pound rallying to the upside. Now I wonder whether that's just a reaction from, actually, almost getting back up, isn't it? And the euro.
Euro might be dragging it with it, but.
I mean, if there's any announcement from the negotiations between Theresa May and Juncker, then I suspect both of these will probably have a pretty solid day.
I think I'll have
Right.
it without me, frankly.
You have got a short period before the candles. Yeah. Did you want to get started now? Is 5 minutes out a bit too long?
Never too long.
No, not too far out. Okay. And then we'll have a chat about Bitcoin.
Okay. It's pretty clear to me that this cross Euro-pound, this is the daily trade that we're in, and still free trading, nothing to do. If you're interested in trading on a 30-minute chart, if you're not in this move, I don't really have anything that I can give you because we are in a range. We do have double bottom followed up by a higher low. Potentially this is another higher low, but you're trading straight into resistance. It's too hard at this point. I think in many ways tossing a coin here, which way this is going to go. So I'm not interested at all. Pound yen, that's a daily trade that I'm in. The stocks are under threat here at the moment. Very minor position that I've taken, so it's not going to be the end of the world if it does happen. But whilst there's life, there's hope, I suppose. If this does turn into a lower high, then I may even be interested in increasing my position on this. We'll see. A lot can happen here at this level. Obviously, if it goes through here, there's something else I can look at above. But I think I'll probably just go into my shell if that were to be the case and wait till something substantial happens. I'm just not that keen to trade today for some reason. I'm not liking the market too much, I don't think. This is starting to...
Not feeling it, mate.
No, just not. This one here is starting to look a bit interesting in that not only have we, I guess, put in a higher low in this consolidation pattern, the breakout that we were looking for may be happening here. It may be false, but it may be happening. What I'd like to see here is something concrete, and that would be, this being the 4-hour chart, a close above this, the weekly pivot, then a retest of all of these levels. The weekly pivot, the trend line, this level here, 149.65, and even daily pivot, if that's to be the case. You can probably scratch daily pivot if the other three are retested. That would be a fairly strong buy signal for me. And there's obvious targets up here as well. So I'll be looking at that one. Maybe, actually, I've got 2 more webinars after this one, so I will be in front of the chart. So I guess EuroCAD will be on top of my list if that is to be the case. Dollar yen, I'm still kind of wishing I was in at the moment, and kind of not, because the price action's garbage. But this, if it turns into a lower high and we see this price fall, then I'm going to be a little bit disappointed that I've missed it. But there should be another opportunity, I would have thought. There's a few support levels here that we can probably see bounces off, and maybe that will be the opportunity. If it does happen, it's pretty clear to me that this has come off the top of a range at let's call it 111 level, and sought to go higher, sought to match the high, hasn't been able to do that. If it can break through here, then different story. But whilst ever it's in this area, I'm still thinking short to the bottom of that range. I'm not talking Aussies at all, so let's just ignore them. There's that little rally on the pound. Hasn't been able to close above these highs. Maybe significant, maybe not. You would expect resistance after a little bit of a rally, and that's pretty much what we're seeing. The next hour or so is going to tell the story here. We've got news coming out, and that will probably shape this, but it most definitely will shape this one, the euro. And the euro, as you can see, has rallied on the back of that French news, hit the resistance level, and there it stays at the moment, probably until the next lot of news.
Well, we just had it, actually.
Oh, it's just out, right? Okay.
Yeah, it's just out. I'm not sure what it is yet, but okay. German manufacturing PMI comes in at a miss.
A miss, okay.
Yeah, quite a significant miss as well. 47.6 is the number, and services PMI comes in at a miss, but to the upside of 55.1. So the services PMI, I don't think is going to balance the fact that the manufacturing PMI is so poor, because German manufacturing is much more key than services. So we may well see some easing back on the euro off the back of that number. It's possible with services growing as they are, one may counter the other, but I suspect that will probably be perceived as negative rather than positive overall here.
Okay. If that's the case, then as we sneak back into this range, I will be looking on the smaller time frames for something of a lower high here. We can probably trade it down to the bottom of the range with relatively safe feelings in our brains. Look at one more, euro yen. Euro yen on the 30-minute chart. That candle that was just recently printed has just really confirmed the top of the range that we're sitting in, I suppose. Let's put that on there just because it looks pretty when I have something to put on the chart. Well, I think it does. Where's this range? Probably there. A couple of falsies to the low side. I'd be happy with that. So let's keep our eye on that. And if we can find a way similar to what I've just described on euro US dollar, a little lower high here might get me interested in a short. We'll see. But there's nothing there at the moment, mate. So we might as well have a chat about that cryptocurrency known as Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's have a look at that, because Bitcoin has just had some respite from its move to the downside recently, and the question is this the start of something? So we've seen. Let's bring this onto a clean chart. Now, I'm still interested in NVIDIA as a product, but I've been reading up quite a lot on NVIDIA, and they do look like they're going to miss quite a few profit earnings over the next year. So it might be a bit early for those guys. This is where Bitcoin needs to get through. This is the first pattern that it needs to get through, especially given where price is right now. People have been calling through needing it to get through 5,000, which I get to a certain degree, just because the 5,000 level is a psychological number. But I think it's about this pattern. So if we can get through this pattern, then I suspect 5,000 will just cause a potential pause and a return and maybe a bounce. So it could be that we wait for 5,000 to give us that resistance and then pick it up on the bounce to the downside. But this would be the area that for me it needs to get through. The other thing and the other aspect of this is that we're a week away from the close of the month, and it may well be the first bullish close that we would have had in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months. So could this be the first signal that Bitcoin is just getting a little bit of signs of life here? And if it is, then we're going to have to start looking at some possibly some shares that we can look at, or maybe we look across the board. Now, I do know that one of the reasons that Bitcoin has possibly had a bit of a rally is that JP Morgan are opening a cryptocurrency, or they're starting to use a cryptocurrency. And with the acceptance of the technology, could it mean that the whole market starts to open up, and actually we get a rally off the back of on the back of JP Morgan, and we get a rally across the board in the cryptocurrency area. So Bitcoin's
but does that mean that the JP Morgan crypto is accepted by everyone else, and Bitcoin? Oh, sorry, we don't need you anymore.
No, so the JP Morgan cryptocurrency will just be for JP Morgan clientele.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so it's not a
So
source.
they're not releasing it. It's an intra.
It's an exactly.
Thing.
It's which I will tell you exactly what is been. It's called the JP Morgan coin. It's based on blockchain technology, and it's got the same architecture used by the likes of Bitcoin, and will be used to facilitate near instantaneous settlements of money transfers. The Financial Times has reported. Newly announced cryptocurrency will be used only for internal online payments at the bank and is not available for public trading. The move indicates that the wider financial sector is ready to adopt the controversial technology. So there's a quote here by Forbes that says, at the end of the day, the fact that JP Morgan using the digital coin for cross-border payment only strengthens the entire space and fosters the very concept that these digital coins are the future. So I think if we were looking at something here as a play for what might be the state of things to come, then we would probably maybe bounce off the back of that story and look into something like Bitcoin as one of the benefactors of JP Morgan going into the space. Seeing the same thing here with Ethereum, and XRP is having something of a kind of golden phase as well, if you like. Again, this is where we can use our technical analytical skills and make sure that we aren't the first people to get into this stuff. Because ultimately, when we look at XRP or we look at Bitcoin here, then what this is telling us is that Bitcoin is still in a downtrend. So there's absolutely no rush here to kind of to get involved in this. But it will certainly help. Now I'm starting to see why the 5,000 handle is so significant. So maybe we do look for 5,000 here. Yeah, this is why 5,000 is actually significant. It actually breaks through this trend line. So there is a possibly as a trend line there. It's possible that the trend line's there, which is probably more like the 5,000 area. So yeah, breaking through here, we'll probably see a rally in Bitcoin. Now we don't need to be on the first run here. As I say, this is still in downside. Yeah, well, I mean, this is still in bearish territory, isn't it? And this particular pattern will help us have a rally. Now, I'm not saying that we need to wait for this particular area here. I would be more than happy if we move up and then move back to get into this particular area here, because that's going to give us a higher low off a pattern breakout. And then if we do start to move forward, then maybe we move things to break even, depending on how we trade this. But probably more likely we just leave it run and see what happens. And if it breaks below, we've got this price here, just close it off. If it breaks above, then we just hold and see if we get another significant rally. And again, I'm not predicting that we get back up here again, but Bitcoin did it once, and obviously it moved in a incredibly motivated and emotive way to the upside. So to get that kind of price action again is probably unlikely, but it might well find some stability here, and if it does become the new way that money is exchanged and moved and paid for, and things are paid for, then why not look at the crypto market generally, and then possibly we look at Nvidia, or we look at Ripple or Bitcoin or Ethereum, and go from there. So,
yeah, look, I think the crypto space is absolutely fascinating, and would not be surprised if in, I don't know, 5 years' time that we are dealing in cryptocurrency as an accepted worldwide currency.
Mm-hmm.
But which one is it to be? And that's the big question.
Yeah.
Blockchain seems to be the accepted method, but wow, to put your finger on a particular cryptocurrency and say this is the one, I just don't see that.
And I think that's a fair point, which is why, when we look at it, we want to see who's kind of like in charge of this stuff, who's actually making some of the parts for this stuff, which brings me back to Nvidia. I really like this, and I think Nvidia will probably be a potential go-to company for some of these advocates of blockchain. So Nvidia needs some other numbers to really kind of kick it on, but it's had a fair dip, and there's no secret that this has really been off the back of the move in Bitcoin. The dip that we've had to the downside. So if blockchain technology does start to become a significant player in the currency market, then I agree with you. Why would we need to guess which is going to be the one that people say is the currency that will be most widely used? Why not go to the people that make the technology? And Nvidia really kind of fit that particular description. So
Yep.
as I say, there's some other numbers from Nvidia that they need to sort out. But let's remember that they're also in the gaming sector. So gaming is something that could pick up for them, and it looks like they've got some technology that's just been released that was announced at a gaming convention recently that's been very, very well received. So what's the price on it?
Is that their chart?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is their chart, which I can just make into a chart actually if it helps. Yeah, this is the chart of Nvidia here.
What's that time frame?
This is a daily. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll be looking at that really. Looks like we're through a level. Looks like we've got an inverted head and shoulders here. So I like this. I think picking Nvidia up around about 154 wouldn't be a bad price to go for. The slight issue with this particular stock is that when we look at the financials, then I'm just going to split this back up again. When we look at the financials, the earnings per share coming really weak, pre-tax profits are weak, the EBIT's weak, the turnover's weak, and these are all forecast growth. So the forecast really for this year is that there is some weakness out there with Nvidia. And because of that, it doesn't look so attractive. It looks a little bit difficult, like a difficult stock to get into. But what we've got to try and look at, I think, is how far this stock has come down. And when we see how far it's come down, even though it could well drop a little further, I still think this is probably going to be a pretty decent price, and we do have a little reversal pattern here. So I wouldn't be adverse to trying to pick it up in here, and I wouldn't be adverse to holding on to this for a 5 to 10 year play. That's all 5 to 7 year play. I guess it would probably end up being.
So do you play these at the moment? Have you got them on a platform?
No. Did you know? No. You can't trade it. I mean, you could trade it, but you'd have to use a completely different broker.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so there are brokers out there that would trade it, but I'm not interested in trading this, to be honest. I'd be much more interested in actually buying the shares.
Right, fair enough.
And seeing if price increases and there's some dividends out there and actually holding it as a company. And I guess that this is about building a portfolio outside of trading. What do we want to do with our trading profits? And I think it's never a bad thing to after you've got trading. Yeah, exactly that. You're going to sort of like put it in a longer term investment because there's going to be times that maybe we don't trade anymore, but for whatever reason, it might be that we're fed up with it. It might be that the world changes so much that trading becomes an impossibility, because
because of the machines.
This is the thing. Yeah, the powers that be might completely hijack any advantage that we have out there. So
well, let's be realistic, I suppose. They've only let us in. When did that start? 2001, I think.
Yeah.
Where we're actually able to trade without $1 million in the bank.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So we're still only minor players in the game in terms of long term. It wouldn't surprise me at all that one day they just pull the pin and say, "Well, hey guys, guess what? Unless you've got 200 bitcoins in your pocket, you ain't playing this game."
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's just an absolute guess, really. But it's something to talk about, I suppose, while the market's doing what it's
doing. Well, this is the thing, and I think that if we are always looking, under the hood of something, gold is a really good example. We've seen gold rally significantly. Where is our gold chart? Here it is. We've seen gold rally significantly, right the way from August. And again, a way that can be played is that rather than buying gold per se, we go and buy a gold stock. So we'd probably look at something like probably who was I looking at before? Let's look and find them. Randgold.
Speculate in penny stock miners, or all those sorts of things.
Yeah, can't think who. I can't think who my. Oh, Fresnillo. So Fresnillo. There we go.
I still think water derivatives are the way to go.
Yeah, well, again, that wouldn't be a bad play either. This is this kind of thing here. We've seen since the back of 2018, we've seen a huge rally in Fresnillo, and if you had any kind of inclination that what was going on with the gold market here, so let's bring this over here. Not sure how small I can make this. This is the comparison. That was back in April. Maybe if we'd seen that the first higher low here was also in November, then actually Fresnillo itself didn't start to rally until December. The end of November into December didn't start to rally. So rather than playing gold, then we could have played the gold stock. Now there's another reason that it's much better, in my opinion, to look at the stock when it comes down to gold, and that's because it's traded in dollars, which means that you've got to kind of calculate exchange rates and everything else. And the other reason, of course, is that you don't qualify for dividend payments in gold, so there's no way to make money out of it except for the capital gains. So that's why I quite like these partnerships. Finding where the partnerships are. Bitcoin with Nvidia, and probably others as well, which I haven't yet discovered, but I will do, and gold with something like Fresnillo as well. So I think actually looking at these charts are quite a nice way to kind of then filter through what knowledge you have to go and see if you can find some shares. And you have to really look at blue chips with this, because with the financials with something like Fresnillo, they will be, they're going to have these kind of earnings per share are really weak and pre-tax profits are really weak. But this is a blue chip company that ultimately will survive. So if you're just going to play a rally in gold, then you're not too worried about the financials when it comes down to this.
Who are this mob anyway?
This is a gold mining company.
And they're miners, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
I think water Well, water's my pick. Definitely my pick.
Yeah, no,
Water,
I
water
like that, mate.
derivatives.
I like that,
That'd be
and
good.
yeah, there are stocks that we could trade with that as well, and also biotechnology and renewables. You know, there's all this kind of all these areas that we want to get into. I think the problem with water is that we don't have an overall chart that we can look at, do we?
I don't know. I don't fish into these things. Sorry, didn't mean to have a pun there, but
now the FTSE has absolutely tanked here.
you don't want to see that, Ash.
No, I don't particularly. I mean, only because I don't want to see it because the only chance that I'd have had here was right on this point here at the high, which I did see, but I didn't take. But I've just seen it kind of plummet to the downside since then, and it's already 1% up. Now, it's not a huge issue because this was my entry point anyway. You know, this is the point I was in before. So anything better than this price that we're at right now is going to be a bonus, and we are just about on a point of support here. So I would look for a rally here, but maybe a rally could get me in. One of the reasons I don't mind missing this is that as we close into the top of the hour, we also close into the top of the 4 hour on the futures here, and that particular bar is suggesting that we have hit a point of resistance up here. Now there is some support, so I'd look for a bounce here, but a bounce to get me into this market. So I'll be going short on the FTSE today, and I've almost got no doubt on that. So anybody that's interested, I'm probably going to look for around about 20 to 30 pips to the upside, and then I'm going to look for some downside.
Okay. Christo's got a few suggestions for you there, mate. I don't know if you've seen those.
AMD. Who's AMD? Oh, are these? I will have a look at all those companies. Thank you, mate. I will have a look at those companies. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is a long discussion on the stuff that the British, you know. And the thing is,
I'm over it.
Yeah, you can get so caught up in your own opinion that that you don't see the other side of the argument. Now, I can't ignore that that there are some moderate people out there that have got a fair and just reason for wanting to stop immigration. I think my main concern is the other side of it. You know, I've seen so much evidence that that there's just some real vitriol when it comes down to some of the reasons behind it. That's the bit that I just don't recognise. But you're absolutely right. You know, there's so many different reasons for this, and it is a long discussion that you probably will never really get to the bottom of. But what we really want is for the government to get to the bottom of it and give us something that we can actually get our teeth into when it comes down to movements in the pound and the euro.
Hell yeah. Christo, are you suggesting lithium because of battery, I assume? Storage of power technology.
Is that a company?
Is that well? It's a mint, not a mint. What is it? It's on the periodic table. Element. That's it. But they also make compounds out of lithium-based stuff, and I assume that is the play that Christo is talking about with power storage. Could be wrong.
Okay, yeah, give us a list. That'd be great to look through some stuff. Lithium. Lithium is not a company, though, is it? I mean, when you're sort of saying about, I suppose you look at lithium companies. Okay, I will look at all that and see what I can get garner from it. Great. Thanks, buddy.
So we've got water, we've got lithium, we've got gold miners.
Yeah, we got some Bitcoin.
No, we haven't.
We got no Bitcoin.
Well, you have.
Yeah, well, we got the Bitcoin producers, I should say.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we'll look at.
We'll go with the sector. We won't go with.
We'll go with the sector. Yeah, absolutely. This is the thing. What we want to do is start breaking down some of the financials. You know, we'll look at the charts as well, but I think we start to break down some of the financials, which you know I have started to do. Geez,
Yeah, commodities in general. You might be on the money there too, Christo. I think just in general, commodities. Why not?
Yeah.
Not a bad space to be in.
No, absolutely not. Right, now let me just check also if we've got any update of any other news for the day. Nothing. Why is nothing in yet? Okay.
I don't know, but the
All
market's
right.
totally boring, I've got to say.
Well, the FTSE's not. I have to say the FTSE is completely on its way. I feel like I've missed a trick here, but as you say, there's usually a second opportunity. So let's hope that there's another opportunity to get into this.
There always is another opportunity, mate.
Always. Okay. Well, that'll do me. Now I don't.
It might be at Christmas time, but you'll get another chance to get that price.
Do you know, I wouldn't be ignoring this just because it's down here. I'm quite happy for this to continue through this level, because as I say, this will be pretty much the same price as I was in anyway. And because I've taken profit the first time round, it's not really a major deal for me here. But if this comes all the way down to the weekly pivot and bounces back up again, and I get in on the daily, so be it. I'm not too worried about that. So on the UK 100, you're looking at something like 7,200 for a trade to the downside. But we got to wait now. You know, this market has got way too much momentum at this particular stage for us to get in. So I'm just going to be waiting this one out, mate. Especially if it closes down here, that'll look pretty good. But the bulls do not have any power so far. But what happened yesterday was we opened up really very strong, and then we closed down very strong, and then the market just started to kind of like level off a little bit. But I think the fact that we've got multiple bars here where it's just started to drip to the downside and then fall does suggest that that this market is probably quite happy to be fairly heavy today. But I'm a bit gutted I missed that one. I was just too late in front of my computer to think quickly enough. So let's wait for round two and see what we have.
Mate, I haven't got really anything to add at all. Euro pound seems to be headed lower, which is probably very good news for the Euro pound trade. The one thing I would say with the Euro pound trade, if I can go there, is just be very careful here that this doesn't spring a very rapid reversal, because this could well be a clear out.
That looks really good, doesn't it?
It does at the moment, but this could be a clear out. If we come through here and take out both these lows, we could be looking at a very quick reversal. And if that happens, you need to consider, if this breaks, this is going here. Okay. So I will buy back my position here if this breaks here as a breakout. So what I'm looking at here is this. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm aware of the possibility.
Liking the look of that, mate. That looks really good.
Yeah, so far so good. But as I say, if we take out both of these lows, say by 10, 15 pips, something of that nature, enough to clear out every single stop that's in this area, let's say underneath the DS1. Let's say if we got to 86.64-ish, that area there, and then we got a very smart rally and a close above this level, that would be the time to start thinking very seriously about trading long. And I would, most definitely, I'd buy back my positions here, no question. And I'd probably load it up, because that would be a very, very, very strong signal that the big boys are playing stop hunts here. Okay. So that's my my tip. Yes, this looks fantastic at the moment, but just be careful here that it doesn't reverse very quickly and head back to the weekly pivot.
Yeah,
that's really all I've got, mate. My pound yen trade from this morning looks cactus, but as I said, whilst there's hope, whilst there's life, there's hope. When you're hoping in the currency market, you're probably not doing the right thing. But as I said, I've gone in here very light. It's a just in case trade, and this may well be very much the same thing as I'm just talking about, going the other way. So if this gets up to here and then starts the reverse, I'll get back in pretty quickly.
yeah.
EuroCAD. Let me have a look at that on the hourly chart. It's gone on a long time. Let me have a look at that on the 4-hourly chart. Yeah, it's the same on every chart. I don't know that I'd trust the smaller time frames, but if we were to get, and I think I said this from the outset, if we got to close above the weekly pivot and then a retest of this area here, there's a long on for sure. So that would be the way I'll be looking at that. After all, this is potentially a higher low. It's a bloody long higher low, but potentially that's exactly what it is. I can't find my way in here on dollar yen. It may just have to go without me if it goes. I mean, it's so far in just a ridiculous range that I can't work out. Not interested in the Aussie pairs. The pound looks full of life at the moment, no question. I don't see a trade, however. I can't get in long here, so I've got to wait till we get back to here. So, as I said, mate, I'm just got very little interest in the market at the moment. Aussie pairs, nothing. Last one, euro yen. That's going too fast for me. It's going too fast for me. What I was looking for was a lower high here and trading that short, but that's going too quickly. Maybe not. Maybe it does present that after a bounce off the daily pivot. And if that's the case, I will look for that lower high and look to trade it short, taking profit definitely, pardon me, at the bottom of that range, which is around about the 125.50 area. So a couple of ideas, mate, but yeah, not that keen.
No worries.
It's been a reasonable week, so I don't want to give it back.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That's absolutely fair enough. Okay, well let's call it a day. Let's call it a week. I think the plan's fairly tight for me. Just looking for some downside and just looking for a better price now to get in. And no doubt I'll try and hold on to that right into next week. So if I've got in, then I'll probably still be in it on Monday. So that's what I'm looking at right now, guys. Have a great weekend, mate. Enjoy your
you too,
the rest of your day, and I'll speak to you next week. Same trade time, same train channel. And for everyone else, also have a good day. Is there any other shows due today?
I've got my strategy leader coaching coming up in an hour. Then there's the free original show.
Oh, right.
That is on at, what time is that on? 11 o'clock my time. So 8 o'clock Singapore time.
Okay.
Midday your time. And that's about it for the week, mate.
3 hours. Okay, great stuff.
If anybody's in the room and wants to get into that free show, they need a link, of course. Don't know that I can post it here in any way, shape, or form. But if you want to go to the actionstowealth.com website, you may find a link there. Would they find a link there?
I would have thought so.
If not, email contact@actionstowealth.com that should find it, or go to the Actions to Wealth Facebook page. There's probably about 8 or 9 traders in that show, so it's a great show to get in and find out what they're doing in terms of their trading strategies and what they're looking to trade for the day. And who knows, you might even find a few trades to take, unlike this session.
Yeah, well, this is. I mean, I might well pop into that show later on as well. I might have a bit of time to do that. So
yeah, I'll be in there for the first half hour or so, but I'll be getting out of there fairly quickly and saying hello to the pillow.
Great, mate. All right, brilliant. Well, I might see you later on in that show then.
All right, mate. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Great stuff. See you later, guys.